The front door slammed with theatrical precision, followed by the click-clack of designer heels across our hardwood floors. I didn't look up from my laptop screen, though every muscle in my body tensed like a coiled spring. After 23 years of marriage, I knew Marta's entrances better than a theater critic knows bad acting. "Honey, I'm home!" Her voice carried that artificial sweetness she reserved for her marketing presentations and lying to my face. "I have the most incredible news! I saved my work, a cybersecurity audit for a local bank that would keep food on our table while my wife played house with her boyfriend." The irony wasn't lost on me that I spent my days protecting other people's assets while mine were being systematically pillaged. Marta appeared in the doorway of my home office, practically glowing with fake excitement. At 45, she still turned heads, auburn hair perfectly styled, emerald eyes bright with deception, wearing that black dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She looked like a woman celebrating something momentous. "Sit down, David. You're going to want to sit down for this." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face with the same analytical precision I used to dissect security vulnerabilities. "I'm already sitting, Marta. What's this earth-shattering news?" She clasped her hands together, bouncing slightly on her toes like a schoolgirl. "We're going to have a baby!" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I watched her expression, cataloging every micro-expression, every tell, the slight twitch at the corner of her left eye, the way her smile didn't quite reach her cheekbones, the barely perceptible shift in her stance when she realized I wasn't reacting the way she'd rehearsed. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder, setting it gently on the desk between us. Her eyes flicked to it, and I caught the first crack in her performance. "That's wonderful news, Marta. Really wonderful." I opened the folder and withdrew a medical document, sliding it across the desk. "Here's some news for you, too. I had a vasectomy 3 years ago. Dr. Peterson at Minneapolis General. There's the paperwork." Her face went white beneath her foundation. "But wait, there's more." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a screenshot. "Here's a text from your phone to someone named Mike. Quote, 'Can't wait to tell David tonight. This baby is going to change everything.' Unquote." Marta's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I stood up slowly, savoring the moment like a fine wine. "So congratulations, sweetheart. You're absolutely right. This baby is going to change everything. And here's my congratulations to you. I can't possibly be the father. But please, give Mike my regards. I'm sure he'll make a wonderful daddy." The color drained completely from her face. Her carefully constructed performance crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. "David, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can. You always were creative with your explanations." I walked around the desk, stopping just close enough to see the panic in her eyes. 23 years, Marta. 23 years I've been the reliable husband, the steady provider, the guy who fixes your computer and remembers your mother's birthday. And this is how you repay that loyalty. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. It's exactly what I've known for the past 6 months while you've been playing house with your colleague. I pulled out another sheet of paper. Hotel receipts, the Marriott downtown, every Tuesday for the past 4 months. Should I go on? She stumbled backward, her designer heels catching on the area rug. "How did you—" "I'm a cybersecurity consultant, Marta. Finding hidden information is literally what I do for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the changes in your behavior? The new lingerie that never made an appearance in our bedroom? The sudden interest in working late? The way you started showering the moment you got home from these mysterious client dinners?" Tears started streaming down her cheeks, ruining her perfect makeup. But I felt nothing, no sympathy, no regret, just cold calculation. "Please, David, we can work through this. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I laughed, and the sound was harsh even to my own ears. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk from the store. A mistake is double booking dinner reservations. Getting pregnant by your lover while married to your husband? That's not a mistake, Marta. That's a choice. A series of deliberate, calculated choices." She pressed her back against the wall, trapped like the cornered animal she was. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" I pretended to consider the question. "I want you to understand that the game has changed. For 23 years, you've held all the cards. You made the social connections. You earned the big salary. You decided how we spent our money and our time. You treated me like a convenient accessory to your perfect life." I moved closer, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "But here's the thing about being underestimated, sweetheart. It gives you time to plan. And I've had 6 months to plan. What are you talking about?" I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a pleasant expression. "You'll find out soon enough. But first, I have a question for you. Does Mike know about the baby yet?" She shook her head mutely. "Well, that's a conversation I'd love to be a fly on the wall for. I imagine he's going to be thrilled to learn he's about to become a father, especially when he finds out his girlfriend is still married and her husband knows everything." I walked back to my desk and picked up my phone. "In fact, why don't we call him right now? I bet he's waiting to hear how your big announcement went." "No! David, please! Please what? Please continue living this lie? Please pretend I don't know my wife is carrying another man's child? Please keep being the fool while you and your boyfriend laugh about what a pathetic cuckold I am." The words hit her like physical blows. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, her expensive dress pooling around her like spilled ink. "I never said those things. You didn't have to say them, Marta. I could see it in your eyes every time you looked at me. The contempt, the boredom, the way you'd roll your eyes when I tried to tell you about my day or suggest we spend time together." I knelt down so we were at eye level. "Did you think I was blind? Did you think I was too stupid to notice that my own wife couldn't stand being in the same room with me?" She was sobbing now, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, David. I never meant for it to happen, but it did happen, and now we have to deal with the consequences." I stood up and straightened my shirt. "Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to pack a bag and leave, tonight. You can go to Mike's place, or your sister's, or a hotel. I don't care where, but you're not sleeping under my roof tonight." "This is my house too." "Actually, it's not. Check the deed. My name only. I bought this house with my inheritance from my father, remember? You insisted we keep our finances separate because you made more money than me. Well, congratulations. That decision is about to bite you in the ass." She stared at me with a mixture of shock and dawning realization. "You can't just kick me out. I can and I am. You want to play house with Mike? Go play house with Mike. But you're not doing it here, and you're not doing it on my dime." I walked to the window and looked out at our quiet suburban street. Mrs. Henderson was walking her dog. The Johnsons were bringing in their garbage cans. Normal people living normal lives, probably not dealing with cheating wives and unplanned pregnancies. 23 years, I said without turning around. 23 years I gave you everything I had. My loyalty, my trust, my love. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could have your dream house and your designer clothes and your fancy car. I put up with your mother's passive-aggressive comments and your friends who treated me like hired help. I swallowed my pride 1,000 times because I thought that's what marriage meant, compromise and sacrifice. I turned back to face her. She was still on the floor, mascara streaking down her cheeks like black tears. "But you know what I realized tonight? Marriage is supposed to be a partnership. It's supposed to be mutual respect and shared dreams and having each other's backs when the world gets tough. What we had wasn't a marriage, Marta. It was a business arrangement where I provided financial security and social respectability. And you provided, what? The illusion of a happy home? That's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed again. "You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I found out about your affair by accident when you left your phone on the kitchen counter and it buzzed with a text from Mike saying he couldn't wait to taste you again? Is it fair that I've been sleeping next to my wife for months while she carried on an affair behind my back? Is it fair that you were going to try to pass off another man's child as mine?" She had no answer for that. "Go pack your bags, Marta. We'll figure out the legal details later. But right now, I need you out of my sight before I say something we'll both regret." She struggled to her feet, using the wall for support. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her makeup ruined, her designer dress wrinkled. She looked like what she was, a woman whose carefully constructed lies had finally caught up with her. "This isn't over, David." "No," I agreed. "It's not. It's just beginning." The house felt different after Marta left. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. More like the silence after a bomb explodes, when your ears are still ringing and you're not sure what's left standing. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my leather chair. The one Marta always complained didn't match the decor. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk, Mike." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "I couldn't agree more. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Murphy's Bar on 5th Street. Come alone." The response came quickly. "Fine." I set the phone aside and took a sip of bourbon, feeling the burn slide down my throat. Mike Patterson, 38 years old, marketing director at Pinnacle Creative, the same firm where Marta worked as a senior account executive. I'd done my homework on him over the past 6 months. Divorced 2 years ago, no kids, drives a BMW, lives in a downtown loft that costs more per month than most people's salaries. He was everything I wasn't: young, flashy, unencumbered by decades of compromise and responsibility. I could see why Marta was attracted to him. What I couldn't see was why she'd married me in the first place, if this was what she really wanted. The bourbon was making me philosophical, which was dangerous territory. I had work to do. I opened my laptop and began typing. By morning, I had drafted emails to 3 divorce attorneys, compiled a comprehensive file of evidence documenting Marta's affair, and created a detailed inventory of our shared assets. I also did something that would have made my old self sick with guilt. I transferred money from our joint savings account into my personal checking account. Not all of it, just enough to ensure I could cover my legal expenses and living costs for the next several months. The old David would have agonized over that decision. The old David would have worried about being fair, about taking the high road, about what people would think. But the old David was dead, killed by a pregnancy announcement and a folder full of evidence that his wife had been living a double life. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Marta. David, we need to talk. Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How was your first night at Mike's Love Nest? I'm at my sister's house, and we need to discuss this like adults. I laughed. Adults? You mean like the adult conversation you should have had with me before you started screwing your coworker? That kind of adult conversation? I deserve that. But David, please, can we meet for coffee? There are things you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored with your reliable husband and decided to trade up. The only thing I don't understand is why you thought you could get away with it. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You made a choice, Marta. You chose to betray 23 years of marriage for a few months of excitement with a younger man. Now you get to live with the consequences. There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more vulnerable than I'd heard it in years. David, I'm scared. For just a moment, I felt a flicker of the old sympathy. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with. The one who used to curl up against me during thunderstorms, who cried during sad movies and laughed at my terrible jokes. But then I remembered the hotel receipts and the pregnancy test and the look of panic when her lies fell apart. You should be scared. You should have been scared 6 months ago when you decided to blow up our marriage. But it's too late for fear now, Marta. The damage is done. What about our kids? Ross and Emma are going to be devastated. Our kids are adults. They'll figure it out. And frankly, they might be relieved to finally understand why their parents have been walking around like strangers for the past 2 years. I never wanted this to happen, but it did happen. And now we all get to deal with it. I hung up and immediately called Ross, our 22-year-old son, who was supposedly finishing his senior year at the University of Minnesota, but had actually dropped out 6 months ago to pursue his dream of becoming a professional gamer. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice thick with sleep. Dad? It's like 6 in the morning. Your mother and I are getting divorced. Silence. Then, what? She's been having an affair with a coworker. She's pregnant. The baby isn't mine. We're done. Holy shit. Dad, are you okay? It was the first time in years that Ross had sounded genuinely concerned about my well-being. I'm fine, son. Better than fine, actually. I just wanted you to hear it from me before your mother spins some story about how this is all my fault. Mom's pregnant, but she's like, old. 45 isn't that old, Ross. But yes, she's pregnant. And before you ask, no, I'm not supporting her or her boyfriend or their baby. You and your sister are welcome to maintain whatever relationship you want with your mother, but I'm done. Another long pause. Dad, I'm sorry. I know you guys haven't been happy, but I never thought I never thought she'd cheat. Neither did I, but here we are. I took another sip of bourbon, even though it was barely past sunrise. There's something else you should know. I'm not paying for your apartment anymore. Your mother can take care of that now, or you can get a job. It's time for you to grow up, Ross. But Dad, no buts. I've been enabling your Peter Pan syndrome for too long. You're 22 years old. Figure it out. I hung up and immediately dialed Emma, our 20-year-old daughter, who was actually in college, studying pre-med at Northwestern. She was the responsible one, the achiever, the one who reminded me of myself at that age, optimistic and hardworking and naive about how cruel the world could be. Hi, Daddy. This is a surprise. You never call this early. Emma, sweetheart, I need to tell you something, and I need you to sit down. Oh God, is someone dead? No, honey. But your mother and I are getting divorced. The conversation with Emma was harder. She cried, asked a dozen questions I couldn't answer, and begged me to reconsider. By the time I hung up, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. But it was done. The kids knew. Now I just had to get through the rest of it. I showered, dressed in my best suit, and drove to the office of Peterson, Klein and Associates, the law firm that handled my father's estate. Margaret Peterson was a shark in designer clothing, the kind of attorney who smiled while she eviscerated opposing counsel. David, she said, standing to shake my hand. I got your email. I have to say, this is quite a comprehensive file you've compiled. I wanted to be thorough. Thorough is an understatement. Hotel receipts, text messages, financial records, medical documentation of your vasectomy, photographs of your wife entering her lover's apartment building. You've built an airtight case. She flipped through the folder, her expression growing more impressed with each page. The pregnancy complicates things, of course. She can't claim the child is yours, given your medical records. But she might try to argue for additional support based on her condition. She's not getting a penny more than what's legally required. And I want to make sure she understands that. Margaret looked up from the files, studying my face with the same intensity I'd seen her use in court. David, I have to ask, are you sure about this approach? Divorce is already an emotional process. Going scorched earth might feel satisfying now, but she had 6 months to come clean. 6 months to end the affair and try to save our marriage. Instead, she tried to pass off another man's child as mine. I'm done being understanding. Fair enough. I'll file the papers this afternoon. Given the evidence you've provided, I expect this to be relatively straightforward. Minnesota is a no-fault state, but adultery can still impact property division and spousal support. Good. I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Margaret smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. Oh, she'll understand. Trust me on that. That evening, I drove to Murphy's Bar, a dive in downtown Minneapolis that smelled like stale beer and broken dreams. It was the kind of place where serious conversations happened, where men came to drink away their problems and pretend they were tougher than they actually were. Mike was already there, sitting in a corner booth, nursing a beer and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He was younger than his 38 years suggested, with the kind of carefully maintained appearance that screamed, I spend more on hair products than most people spend on groceries. Malaway a misseltamia vami toward. We stared at each other for a long moment, sizing each other up like gunfighters in an old western. So, I said finally, congratulations on becoming a father. His face went white. She told you. She tried to tell me it was mine. Can you imagine? 23 years of marriage, and she thought I was stupid enough to believe I'd spontaneously overcome a vasectomy. Mike took a long pull from his beer. Look, David, I want you to know. What? That you're sorry? That you never meant for it to happen? That it just sort of evolved from a professional relationship into something more? I leaned forward. Save your breath, Mike. I don't want your apologies. I want your attention. What do you mean? I mean, I want you to understand the situation you've gotten yourself into. You're not just sleeping with a married woman anymore. You're about to become the father of her child. That makes this real in ways you probably haven't considered. He shifted uncomfortably. Marta and I, we love each other. Love. I tasted the word like it was something bitter. You love her so much that you were content to let her live a double life for 6 months? You love her so much that you were willing to let another man raise your child? It's complicated. It's not complicated at all. You wanted the excitement of an affair without the responsibility of a real relationship. Well, congratulations. Now you get both. The bartender brought my bourbon. I took a sip and studied Mike's face. He was handsome in a generic way, the kind of man who looked good in a corporate headshot, but had no real substance underneath. I could see why Marta was attracted to him, and I could also see why this relationship was doomed. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. Marta is going to need a place to live. She's going to need health insurance. She's going to need emotional support during her pregnancy. And after the baby comes, she's going to need help with childcare and medical expenses and all the other costs that come with being a parent. Mike's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. We'll figure it out. Will you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been playing house with a married woman, enjoying all the benefits with none of the responsibilities. But that game is over now, Mike. The training wheels are coming off. What do you want from me? I want you to step up. I want you to be the man Marta apparently thinks you are. Because if you hurt her, if you abandon her now that reality is setting in, I will make your life very, very difficult. He leaned back, trying to look tough. Is that a threat? It's a promise. See, you've made a crucial error in judgment. You thought I was some pathetic cuckold who would just roll over and accept being betrayed. But here's the thing about underestimating people, Mike. It gives them time to plan. And I've had 6 months to plan. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot. This is your personnel file from Pinnacle Creative. Did you know that company policy strictly prohibits relationships between employees in the same department? Did you know that your boss, Janet Morrison, is a devout Catholic who takes a very dim view of adultery? His face went even paler. You wouldn't. I would. I will. Unless you convince me that you're serious about taking care of Marta and your child. This is blackmail. This is consequences. You made a choice to sleep with my wife. Now you get to live with what that choice means. I finished my bourbon and stood up. Think about it, Mike. Think real hard about what kind of man you want to be, because your next decision is going to determine how the rest of this plays out. I left him sitting in the booth, staring into his beer like it might contain answers. Outside, the Minneapolis night was cold and clear, full of possibilities I hadn't allowed myself to imagine in years. For the first time in 6 months, I felt like I was in control of my own life. The divorce papers were served on a Tuesday morning, while Marta was at work. I know this because Janet Morrison, her boss, called me personally to let me know that my wife had received legal documents and was currently indisposed in the ladies' room. David, I hope you don't mind me calling, Janet said, her voice carefully neutral. I just wanted to express my condolences about your situation. Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. Marta is a valued employee, of course, but I want you to know that Pinnacle Creative takes workplace conduct very seriously. If there are any complications that affect our business environment, we'll handle them appropriately. Translation: she knew about the affair, and Mike's days at the company were numbered. I didn't have to say a word. I'm sure you'll do what's best for the company, I replied. Marta and I will handle our personal matters as quietly as possible. I'm glad to hear that. Take care of yourself, David. After I hung up, I allowed myself a small smile. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself. My phone rang almost immediately. Marta, of course. How could you do this to me at work? Do you have any idea how humiliating this was? Humiliating? You mean like finding out your wife is pregnant with another man's child? That kind of humiliating? David, please, we need to talk about this rationally. We are talking about it rationally. I hired a lawyer, filed for divorce, and had you served with papers. It doesn't get more rational than that. But serving me at work, in front of my colleagues? Where would you have preferred? At Mike's apartment? Oh wait, I don't have that address. Silly me. There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was shaking. I've made mistakes, David. I know that. But this vindictive behavior isn't like you. You're right. The old David would have been understanding. He would have suggested counseling and given you another chance and probably ended up raising Mike's baby while pretending everything was fine. But the old David was a fool. The new David learns from his mistakes. What do you want? Money? The house? I'll give you whatever you want if we can handle this civilly. What I want is for you to understand that actions have consequences. What I want is for you to stop treating me like some pathetic victim who should be grateful for whatever scraps of respect you're willing to throw my way. I could hear her crying, and for a moment, I felt the familiar urge to comfort her. 23 years of marriage had trained me to be her emotional support system, her rock, her safe harbor in every storm. But this storm was one she'd created herself. David, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. You're going to figure it out. You're a smart, capable woman with a successful career. You'll land on your feet. But the baby is Mike's responsibility, not mine. He's not ready to be a father, then he should have thought about that before he got you pregnant. I hung up and immediately called my son Ross. He answered on the first ring, which was unusual. Dad, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. And I want to get a job, a real job, not just some part-time thing. I want to prove that I can take care of myself. I was genuinely surprised. Ross had been drifting through life for the past 2 years, content to let his parents subsidize his extended adolescence. That's good to hear, son. What changed your mind? I talked to Emma last night. She made me realize that maybe I've been taking advantage of you and Mom. And after what happened, I don't want to be like that anymore. I don't want to be someone who just takes and never gives back. And I'm proud of you for saying that, Ross. There's something else. I want to come home for a few days. Help you with whatever you need. I know this has to be hard, even if you're not showing it. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt genuinely emotional. I'd like that. I'd like that very much. I'll drive up tomorrow. And Dad? For what it's worth, I think Mom screwed up big time. You deserved better. After we hung up, I sat in my empty house and tried to process the strange mix of emotions I was feeling. Anger at Marta, satisfaction at finally taking control, pride in my son's unexpected maturity, and underneath it all, a deep sadness for the life I'd thought I was living. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Victoria Chen, Marta's friend. We need to talk. Victoria Chen. I knew her well. Marta's best friend since college, her confidant, her partner in crime for girls' nights and shopping trips and all the other activities that had slowly pushed me to the margins of my wife's life. Victoria was divorced herself, bitter about men in general, and successful in the way that only comes from having something to prove. I texted back, I don't think we have anything to discuss. We do. Meet me at Starbucks on Grand Avenue tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's important. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The next morning, I arrived at Starbucks to find Victoria already there, sitting in a corner table with a venti something or other and an expression that could have curdled milk. She was an attractive woman in her mid-40s, but there was a hardness to her that made her beauty feel like armor. David, she said without preamble as I sat down, you need to stop this. Stop what? This vindictive campaign against Marta. She's pregnant and scared, and you're acting like some kind of monster. I studied her face, looking for the angle. Victoria never did anything without an ulterior motive. Marta sent you. Marta doesn't know I'm here. I came because someone needs to talk sense into you. Sense? You want to talk about sense? I leaned forward. Let me ask you something, Victoria. Did you know about the affair? Her pause was answer enough. How long? David, how long did you know my wife was cheating on me? It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. How long? She stared into her coffee cup. 4 months. 4 months. So while I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for her lifestyle, while I was planning our anniversary dinner and buying her birthday presents and trying to figure out why she seemed so distant, you knew she was screwing around with Mike Patterson. She was unhappy, David. She felt trapped, so she should have divorced me. She should have been honest about what she wanted, instead of living a lie and making me complicit in my own humiliation. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. You don't understand what it's like to be a woman in her position. The pressure, the expectations. I understand that she made a choice, multiple choices, over several months, to betray our marriage. And I understand that you helped her do it by keeping her secrets. I was being a good friend. You were being an enabler. You helped her rationalize her behavior and cover her tracks. You're as responsible for this mess as she is. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger. You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so perfect? You think you were such a great husband? I was a faithful husband. I was a reliable provider. I was there for her when she needed me, even when she made it clear that she found me boring and predictable. Boring and predictable, Victoria repeated. Yes, that's exactly what you were. Do you have any idea what it was like for her, being married to someone who never took risks, who never surprised her, who treated their marriage like a business arrangement? So that justifies adultery? That justifies lying to me for months and trying to pass off another man's child as mine? It justifies her trying to find some happiness in her life. I stood up, suddenly tired of this conversation. You know what, Victoria? You're right. I was boring and predictable. I was the kind of husband who came home every night, who remembered anniversaries and birthdays, who fixed things when they broke and paid bills on time and never gave Marta a reason to doubt my loyalty. I leaned down so we were eye level. But here's what I've learned in the past week. Boring and predictable doesn't mean weak. It doesn't mean stupid. And it sure as hell doesn't mean I'm going to roll over and accept being treated like garbage by my wife and her enablers. David, wait. No, I'm done waiting. I'm done being understanding. I'm done making excuses for people who wouldn't cross the street to help me if I was on fire. I straightened up. Tell Marta that if she wants to communicate with me, she can do it through our lawyers. And tell her that her friend Victoria thinks she was justified in cheating because I was boring. I'm sure that will be very comforting during her sleepless nights. I walked out of the coffee shop, and into the crisp Minneapolis morning, feeling lighter than I had in years. Behind me, I could hear Victoria calling my name. But I didn't look back. Some bridges are meant to be burned. That afternoon, Ross arrived with a duffel bag and a new attitude. He looked more mature somehow, like the events of the past week had forced him to grow up whether he wanted to or not. "Dad, this place is too quiet," he said, looking around the house. "It's creepy. Your mother took her energy with her. Is that what we're calling it?" He set his bag down and gave me a hard look. "Dad, I need to ask you something, and I want a straight answer. Are you okay?" And I don't mean fine or hanging in there. I mean really okay. I considered the question seriously. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I feel like I wasted 23 years of my life on someone who didn't respect me enough to be honest about what she wanted. But okay? Yeah, I think I am okay. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. Ross nodded. Good, because I was worried you were going to do something stupid. Like what? I don't know. Beg her to come back. Agree to raise Mike's kid. Something pathetic and self-destructive. I laughed, surprised by my son's bluntness. No chance of that. That version of your father died when your mother tried to convince me I was about to become a daddy again. Good, Ross said again. Because honestly, I never understood why you put up with the way she treated you. The way she talked to you in front of other people, like you were some kind of servant. It was embarrassing. You noticed that? Emma and I both noticed. We used to talk about it. We couldn't figure out why you let her get away with it. I felt a stab of shame. My children had witnessed my humiliation, and I hadn't even realized it. I thought I was being a good husband. I thought marriage meant putting your spouse's needs first. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, Dad. What you guys had was more like, I don't know, like she was the boss and you were the employee. Out of the mouths of babes. Well, that job is officially over. Ross grinned. So what's the plan? How are we going to make her pay? I'm Team Dad now, all the way. What do you need me to do? Looking at my son, really looking at him for the first time in years, I realized that something good had come out of this disaster after all. Crisis had a way of showing people who they really were, and Ross was showing me that underneath his aimless exterior was a young man with integrity and loyalty. Actually, I said, there is something you can help me with.